Welcome, amazing superstar agents from across the country. Today is April 27th, 2017, and this is Mastermind Call 123. And I guess we could say that doing probate with us is as easy as 1, 2, 3. This is call number 123. Been doing this for. You didn't like that, huh? All right. So obviously we've been doing these calls for more than 2 years now, and they just keep getting better. And so much of that is based on your participation. So thank you to everybody who steps up and actively participates in this call. Go around the horn real quick. Tim, anything you want to share with the group?
No, I've got a couple things that I'll talk about as we move through this. I've got a couple of questions I want to bring up that I think we need to talk about, but let's get our questions out of the way first. And it's been a great week. We're having a tremendous month here, and we're having, good growth and a lot of great successes we're hearing from people. Hopefully some of them are on the call.
All right. And Chad, anything you'd like to share from our training perspective?
I don't really have anything specific today. Let's just jump to the queue.
Okay. Obviously, Mastermind's coming up in a third week of May, so anybody who wants to get in on that, you'll be sending notices out to everybody. And let's just jump right to the questions. Our
Jim,
first person.
I guess we should. Yeah. We should talk next Wednesday, the 3rd, at 2 p.m. is the monthly role play call. So for those of you who are new and haven't been with us yet, the first Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern, we host a probate role play call, and that's where we normally will focus on getting the initial conversation started and handling objections. So these calls, these mastermind calls are more for the general day-to-day marketing questions. The role play calls are more for specifically building your sales language. So if you are just getting on the phones, all of us can get better on the phones. So mark your calendar next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You will get an email invite, but just keep in mind that's coming up.
I also want to point out that we've started adding that information and doing a better job of keeping it up to date on our calendar on the website. So if at any point you're not sure when our next call is or next mastery or any of that stuff, event-wise, we're putting everything on the calendar, and we're going to absolutely make sure that stays up to date every month over month, and actually made it somebody's job to take care of that. So we're continuing to tighten ourselves up, and that data is actually on our calendar, Chad.
Okay.
Excellent. And I just wanted to add on the role play call. It's kind of like Jeopardy. It's got to be in the form of a question. The big difference in the role play call is if you have a place you're getting stuck in your conversation. We have a lot of recurring themes. I know probate quicksand is one, call reluctance is another one, but you don't have to be the agent. Chad will be you can put Chad on the hot seat, but just make it in the form of a role play. So come on with something you're struggling with and role play it with Chad, and that's the best way to learn. All right, so we have 5 people in the queue. I could not be happier. Let's get to, I already unmuted the first one, phone number ending in 3689. You're up. Leroy, that's you.
Oh, well, you want me to have a question before it comes up. All right, I'll come up with one. Have not yet started. I have yet to receive my first list, but my question is, can you tell from the information provided whether or not there's real estate involved, or does that always involve talking to the personal representative and or the attorney before you know whether there's any real estate involved? And I have a second part to that question.
Okay. Chad, first one first.
Right now, the best way to find out is to pick up the phone or get an inbound call from the mail. We are working on, we're beta testing a better system that will help you drill down tighter into the data and actually check if they own real estate anywhere in the country. So later in the year, you'll see that. But for now, best practice is get on the phone and ask good questions.
Okay.
And Leroy, let me just add to that. This is by far not definitive, but a significant percentage of the time, the real estate owned will be the last known address. So you can look at that as a guideline, but don't go by that because people are living longer with illnesses. The last known address could be nursing home, hospice, facility, living with relatives. But you can kind of take a glance at that to get an indication, but obviously don't go by it until you talk to the heirs.
Okay.
And the vast majority, it's 78.8% of Americans over the age of 65 own real estate. So
okay.
the vast majority will have real estate.
Does the list that you provide include affidavits of succession?
No.
No.
So
okay.
There's a lot of, so what, we've got over 3,000 counties. So we, for lack of a better term, we have kind of a general set of fields that we can show everybody. Then things like that might work in your state don't exist in another state. So we don't include that stuff, just mainly from a processing standpoint. It just
okay.
The system is not.
And the main part of my question is, if a person doesn't own real estate, but they really need help with things like finding an estate sale company, and maybe, well, they don't own real estate, but they've got other issues they've got to deal with in the probate. Is there any way we can help them and get paid for our time, or is that just PR when we do help people that call out for help but don't have any real estate to sell?
Well, we teach you to align yourself with all those vendors and that complement your business, and their business should also complement yours. I chose to never charge for services like that. I would get it, it would come back to me in the form of referrals, and you just never know where your next deal is coming from. So, for example, like a financial advisor, if you took somebody and said, well, you inherited this money, you don't own real estate, let me introduce you to my financial services guy, and he can set up a college plan for the kids and reinvest the rest in a Roth or, whatever it is. The next time he's sitting across from somebody who needs to talk about selling a house, who's he going to think of?
Okay.
The next time a family puts together a trust plan and needs to value an asset, who's he going to call? So rather than trying to charge people services for bits and pieces of value, I really get the value from my network, not from the client.
Great. Thank you.
And Leroy, just an add-on to that, remember, if the executor is local, whether there was real estate or not, or whether it's sold or not, you're talking to somebody who inherited around $200,000. So you might just ask them another question, once the estate is settled, do you have any plans maybe upgrading the home you're living in or buying some investment property? Because most people, if they inherit that kind of money, they're probably going to upgrade the home they're in. So just because there wasn't any that was part of the estate doesn't mean that person couldn't be a good listing and or buying client for you.
Right. I understand. Thank you.
Sure. Is that it?
That's it from me at the moment.
All right. Welcome, sir. Please do me a favor. When you become successful at this, we get a lot of new people on these calls. Please come back and share your wins with us when you start to do well. All right. Thank you. Next up is phone number ending in 4277. You're up.
Hey, Jim. This is Art here. I have a bunch of questions. I'm going to rattle them off.
Okay. 3 per customer. Just kidding. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I got my list, and I'm going through my list, and I noticed that a lot of the addresses that are used for the last known address, they're nursing homes. So what I did is I cross-referenced them to tax records. So do you have any, are those throwaway leads, or, should they be mailed once, or what should be done with those types of leads?
Well, just knowing that they passed away in a nursing home doesn't really give you much more, Well, let me ask you this. You said you cross-referenced tax records. Did you see that their assets already transferred, or did you see that there's still real estate in their name?
I cross-referenced tax records as to the date that is filed on the petition of probate. So,
the best thing you can do is call and talk to the personal representative and see if there's any way you can help them. And one of the ways could be with real estate. There's many other ways that you can. So, that's really the best thing you can do. What we find is story after story after story comes back to us of people getting listings where they never expected to get listings. So, my dad died and he didn't have any real estate, but I was thinking about selling my house, and the conversation starts there. and we've got so many of those stories. So the best thing anyone can do is really just, pick up the phone and see how you can help that person today. And you never know where the conversation might go. Maybe they owned a portfolio of apartment buildings. We had one person uncover a $53 million hotel, and that didn't show up on tax records because it was held in an LLC. And you didn't see record on probate or tax records that they were the principals of the LLC, but this family had a hotel that they didn't know what to do with. So the best thing you can do is just call and introduce yourself and your service and see how you can help.
Okay, and the value of that also is that you're, just by doing that, you are establishing yourself as a cut above a normal agent in your county because you're working on an area of specialization. And that's kind of one of the bigger, more subtle points of this, is that as you grow into this and you become more familiar with probate, and look at the frequently asked questions that we have online, and we also add that if you perchance had one of our websites, we build you up as being an expert in probate in your county by virtue of doing all that. And when you call someone with that credential behind you and you know your stuff, no matter what they're doing, they're going to take you far more seriously than just a regular agent prospecting for business. So there's value in setting yourself apart in this niche.
Okay. Also, I was going to add, Art, we've had a number of agents that even took it one step further. If you notice, there's a significant number of same addresses, same nursing home. If you have the bandwidth, run by the nursing home and talk to the director of admissions, because they usually have an incentive to keep that place full, and they are an excellent prospect for referring people to you pre-probate. Before often those people need to sell to get, into the home or qualify for, Medicare or Medicaid. So that's another good person that you can reach out to if you have the time and bandwidth.
Well, yeah, that's actually what I noticed. I noticed that there were a bunch of addresses on highways, and then I just did some research on tax records, and then I just noticed that, that they were either, family deaconship or fellowship, homes, and then I found out that they were assisted living or nursing homes. So you guys. So my next question is pretty much along the same lines. It's a husband and wife situation where the husband or the wife croaked, and we know that the executor is either the wife. So are those more or less likely to be selling, or is it again just to go and call and mine some data and get some information and see if there is assistance?
So rather than go through the whole thing here, I'll point you to, if you go to alltheleads.com and click on blog in the main menu.
Right.
There's I do a series called Tips from the Trainer, and there's about a 12-minute video on why you should call the surviving spouse. It's
okay.
Chances it's a more sensitive phone call than most, because chances are 80% of Americans think that they will die in their primary residence. But look at the nursing home industry is one of the fastest growing in the country right now. So the truth is, we don't always get to. Life can change in a cocaine heartbeat. So a lot of spouses are just shocked, and they're grieving, and they're not making plans for the inevitable. So a lot of times they will sit there until something happens, and then all of a sudden the family is the one that suffers. They need a solution quickly because mom or dad didn't have a plan. Now they need nursing, they need long-term care, and all their assets are tied up in their primary residence. So the house has to be sold, and like yesterday, before Medicare will pick up the bills. So a lot of families are put in the position where they have to either spend what cash is in the estate or in their parents' accounts, if there is any, or sell the house in order to get the assets cleared so that long-term care can be paid for. And very few Americans have a long-term care policy or a rider on their life policy. So that situation is probably the most common, where spouses will say, I am absolutely not selling, but life can change. As soon as spring rolls around, and lawn maintenance and just the care of the home can be a much, a simpler reason. But there's a lot of reasons spouses, they haven't thought about everything. And when that one thing comes up that makes it painful to own that house, where they need to get rid of it, you're better off to have reached out, introduced yourself, and offered some value in any way you can, because they're going to remember that when they need you. So you might not, you're not going to list all those houses today, but it's in the words of our friend Bill Bird, you're stocking your pond. So, reach out, provide value, and when the time comes that they need you, you'll be the only agent in town as far as they're concerned.
Okay.
But watch that video. There's a story in there. It was actually the very first probate deal I ever did, and I kind of tell the story of how that played out and why I never hesitate to reach out to them.
Okay, cool. I'll do that. Next real question, I'm going to go through as quick as I can. It's the same thing. I mean, it's essentially I get a couple of them that are living in apartments. I'm just used to, I guess, working with foreclosures, and I really have to, go for the low-hanging fruit and really be careful with my time. So that's why some of these questions are related to that. Is there something that I can sift through and just kind of throw away, and then work on the rest, which are more low-hanging? And those ones where
right before this call, I commented on a Facebook post in our group. And what I was mentioning earlier, we're working on a system that will help you. It will essentially do all this research for you. What we found in 1 month in one county, there were 12 deceased last known addresses that were apartments.
Right.
Of the 12, all 12 owned real estate, and the value range of that real estate was from $250,000 to $2.5 million. So using that scrubbing technique, you would have surpassed 12 listing opportunities, and at least one of them was a $2.5 million house.
But why are they owning a house and then they're living in an apartment?
I don't know. There's millions of variables in our lives, right? So how can you look at a spreadsheet with 60 variables and say, I know exactly what that person's life looks like?
Well, and a great example of that is they moved to an apartment for no maintenance and all of that and still owned the house. They didn't get rid of the house, and they could have moved into the apartment 2 months before they passed away with the intent of selling the house, never got it on the market because it's still filled with all their stuff. And people, that's the thing that you find a lot with probate. People get stopped by their possessions a lot of the time, and they just don't get to it. And then the heirs are left with it.
Okay. All right, I got it. Next thing is, do you guys have like a return percentage or any procedure that you guys follow for returned mailings? Other than
so we generally don't put return addresses on them for open rates. The intent with the mailing is to make sure that it gets opened, and we typically encourage people more so than not to put the return address on there at least the first time, because we want to get them opened, and we take great pains to make sure that it looks like an envelope that they want to open by using a greeting size envelope and a very special thing that we do on the hand address fonts to make that work. So if we're doing it for you, we generally encourage you not to do that. If you're doing them by hand and you want to do it, that's your call.
Okay, so those are my next questions. So is there any special color that you guys use for your envelopes?
You can use whatever color that you want. If you want to use a colored envelope, that's often something that can get it done for you. If you got a lot of leads in your county, I would urge you to consider having us do this for you and invest your time on talking to your customers. We do this at a very inexpensive price and do a great job for you. So it's probably easier to have us do it, and we do multicolored envelopes and different signatures, and we'll also help you edit your letters for you. But any kind of color that you want to use is fine. You can even use white as long as it's the greeting card size envelope.
Okay, gotcha. Another thing, just the frequency of the mailings. I know you guys recommend doing once a month. Is it advantageous to do a little more blitzing? Because I've done blitzing and it's been successful for me. I mean, what is your experience? What's the optimal?
I mean, if you have a budget to support it, every touch you make in marketing increases your likelihood of getting a sale. So we recommend a minimum of 3 touches, but if you've got the budget to support it, the more you get out there, the better. Now, the frequency is you don't want to mail, I don't know what you mean by blitz, but you don't want to mail someone a letter a day for 14 days like you would a FSBO or an expired. But if you wanted to launch a 12-month campaign and stick with them over time, there's dozens and dozens of stories of, we've listed tons of houses a year, even 2 years away from the death. And so the frequency is going to be different than a blitz. It's more of a marathon, I suppose. But, the more the better.
I was thinking more of not so much blitzing. I've never done daily stuff, but I was thinking more of, every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks as opposed to every month.
Well, our friend Jay Abraham says there's no such thing as a marketing budget, only a test budget. So go test it. You won't know until you try. So if you've got the budget for it, absolutely go try it, and I'd love to hear the results.
Okay. Final question is, what is an affidavit of succession?
So there's state specific and county specific forms in all counties. And sometimes it's letters of testament or affidavits of succession. They're just specific forms for the probate process. If you want to learn more about what they are in your market, you can call the county clerk and have them walk you through the process or go visit them. Sometimes your probate code will be online where you can actually, read all the nuance. You can read the entire probate code and know exactly how it works in your market.
Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. We have 4 more people in the queue, so we're going to get to all of you. We're definitely going to run over 30 minutes today, so thank you guys for hanging in there. Phone number ending in 6997, you're up.
Hey, this is Jeff Scher. Once again, I want to thank you guys for a great training. I'm out bellying up, trying to build my team. Went and talked to an attorney this week who made a recommendation for another attorney in specific circumstances, and also gave me a great reference on a estate sales group. So I'm out shaking hands, building up the team, building my unique sales proposition. I broke it down into basically 3 different setups, transition to retirement or community living, because, some people just want to downsize, some people want to get into a community who needs some extra care. So I'm breaking it up into those 3 categories. Of course, from those 2, I have a client that has been working with me for about a year, and finally we're moving towards putting her house on the market. So I've got a listing. We're not going to put it on the market right away because he wants to investigate doing a significant upgrade. I have a construction company who does upgrades and finances them and then gets paid at settlement, hoping that the investment yields more than the cost. So I'm going to stick a sign out there, and I don't have anything as a writer. You might put, sale, rent, coming soon. I'm not going to do coming soon because it's going to be a while before we get this place in shape. I challenge the folks that all the leads to come up with a rider in this kind of a circumstance where the real estate agent put their sign out there and put a rider up there. And I don't know what it is, transition, update, I don't know. Challenging you guys to come up with an industry standard so people begin to understand what that means. Just want to thank you again.
So Jeff, I just told this story yesterday. So I used to do short sales, and when you put a short sale rider on a sign, it scares a lot of buyers agents away. So on every short sale, I would put a sign rider on that said "Flip this house!" ! And I've put like dozens and dozens of cash buyers on my list because every investor in town would call me, and I would start the conversation and figure out what they were looking for, and it usually wasn't a short sale. But that got a ton of attention because it was a term people were really familiar with. So I might recommend a top rider that says, "We're flipping this house," and a bottom rider saying "Coming soon." Something along those lines. But use a term that people would hear on HGTV and paint that picture.
Right.
A couple of words needs to paint that really cool picture of how sexy it is to flip a house or move into a brand new one.
Okay. So like Flippin would just work for a top writer, huh?
How about Flippin ... coming soon?
Okay. All right. I appreciate it.
Tim suggested he motivated seller. It's a little bit more generic, but that might attract. Is that too generic?
I actually like what Chad said. Chad, that's a great idea to capitalize on the TV. I mean, there's like 3 different shows that are featuring the word flip in them, and that's a great idea as well. I mean, motivated seller is a little bit less out there, but flipping that's going to catch people's eyes. I like that idea.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Jeff, for your kind words, sir. We have 4 more people in the queue. Good job, guys. Phone number ending in 8951. You're up next.
Hi, this is Kelly. I'm from Kentucky.
Hi, Kelly.
My question would be, I'm an investor. I'm no longer an agent. Do you feel like your list is also built for investors to use?
And Chad, let me just take a shot at that, because Kelly, I was both for many, many years. My own experience with these leads, around 10% of them are going to be good, maybe a little bit less than 10% are going to be good buy and flips. Probate, by definition, is not it's motivated, but it's not like a foreclosure or a short sale. But you will run into a significant number of these people. Mom died, we need to get dad in a nursing home, we need to sell right away. I had one that by the time the probate was filed, they were 2 years behind on the payments and like weeks from foreclosure. And I had another one that I got a great deal on. It was free and clear, but there were 12 heirs. So every situation is different. There's certainly, from an investor perspective, they certainly, the ones that are hanging low-hanging fruit are hanging very low, and you have virtually no competition. I always challenge realtors, find an investor, and investors find a realtor, because as an investor, 90% of these people are not going to take your initial offer. You want to find a good realtor, and you want to have a generic approach. You want to call yourself a real estate consultant, and you've got this whole team of people, the estate sale company, the junk out company, the contractor, and you're the investor, and hey, if you're looking to get top dollar, I can recommend a good realtor. And that not only is a better full service to the client, but some of these people are going to go ahead and list it, and 3-4 months later, if it hasn't sold, they're going to get a lot more flexible on their price. You want to find a realtor that'll have your back, that'll give you first shot as an investor if that happens. So it's a good combination for sure. Yeah, realtors and investors.
One more add-on to that, and this is going to seem very random, but I'm a registered nurse also. I wonder what your all's perception is on, using that in part of my signature. Do you know what I mean? Like Kelly Lennon, registered nurse, or RN. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I wonder how, if that makes people perhaps a little more comfortable with calling back.
People want to do business with people. Like people always want to do business with people. So the more personal you can be in a sensitive situation, the better off you're going to be. So figure out a way to work that in and show them your reputation.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking. Particularly from a probate perspective, and the compassion and, all those things that are inherent in nurses, really applies to a probate situation, if you will.
And you need to put that in, if you're going to do it, in the letter that you're sending out and in your correspondence to them. You need to not just put RN by your name. That won't mean anything to most people. Not that they don't know what RNs are, but people are used to seeing people in real estate put initials after their name, and it could be residential nerd or something. You need to highlight the fact that you are a nurse, and it gives you value over and above all that. So I think that's a great idea, but tie it in.
Great.
The best way to do it is going to be using a story. So, hi, my name is I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but hi, my name's Jane. I'm a nurse. And
Kelly.
Hi, my name's Kelly. I'm a nurse in Roanoke, and just wanted to reach out and tell them why being a nurse makes you compassionate, or why you became a nurse, because you're compassionate, and try to work it into a short story. That's what really gets people's emotions and will really make you stand out above the we buy houses kind of people.
And Kelly, there's no doubt that I was a realtor, so nobody will take offense, but the nursing profession as a whole is probably more respected than the real estate profession as a whole. So it certainly is not going to hurt. It's certainly not going to hurt you to have both credentials.
Great. Thank you very much for that advice.
You're very welcome. Great idea. All right. Next up, phone number ending in 2510. You're up.
This is Frank. I got a bunch of questions here. First of all, is in the All the Leads website, is there a video or something that tells us how to most effectively use the CRM for tracking our leads?
There is. So if you go to My Probate Leads, in the very top, as soon as it opens, you'll see a blue button that says Watch CRM Demo.
Okay. Okay.
And Frank, fire away. We've got 4 more people in the queue, and I want to get to everybody. So if you could kind of run through them real quick, I appreciate it. Go ahead, sir. You said you had more, right?
Yeah. When is the best time to send a letter to the attorneys?
Anytime. So they have been in the business, and they're going to be in the business tomorrow. So whenever you're ready. Office visits are going to be way more effective than sending letters. A lot of the letters, stop at the gatekeeper. So what we found to be most effective is actually going into the office, helping them understand that you're specializing in the same field they are, and really introducing yourself as somebody who can make their life easier and their business more efficient.
Okay. And just go to the attorney or to the office of the attorneys? I mean, there's some of them that have multiple attorneys within an office, and not all of them do probate, but introduce.
Yeah, if you see a specific attorney coming up, just say, listen, we help, we reach out to people in the community who are going through this the probate process, and I kept seeing your name pop up, and I figured we're both trying to help the same people, so I'd like to introduce myself and really show you what we do differently. And when they realize that you're not just a typical real estate agent, that you do bring a lot more value than just sales and marketing, they typically will attach to you and start sending you referrals. So you're going to focus on, the attorney, not necessarily the firm.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations for advertising on Facebook? It's pretty tough to draw down on the demographics of who is a personal representative. Well, it's not tough; it's just not there. It's kind of the shotgun approach. I mean, you can throw money at it, and you figure maybe 1% of the population at any given time is a personal representative. So you're wasting 99% of your ad impressions. So it just doesn't make sense. Okay, but advertising on LinkedIn to attorneys?
No, that would be different. So if you're going B2B, I mean, if there's a field, and I don't know this, but if there's a field in LinkedIn, if attorneys are identifying as family law or probate, that might be a really good thing to do, is make a video of explaining what you do and basically what you would say if you had a face-to-face meeting with that person. Make a video and run the ad to those people that are attorneys in those niches. I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Great questions. Excellent. Any more, Frank?
That's it for me.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. Guys, we're definitely going to go a while longer. We've got 4 more people in the queue. We don't leave a question unanswered. So next up is phone number ending in 4740. You're up. (4740). Hello. Let's try it again. All right, phone number ending in 2181. You're up. You there?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, guys.
Hey, good afternoon.
So more of a comment than a question. You know, I just got the leads from you guys, I think, on Friday on the 23rd. And I hear different questions and, concerns from different individuals. And I think a lot of times we overthink this process. You know, obviously if you take, like a doctor, my neighbor's a doctor, and he always tells me, Ernest, how do you become good at something? And if you do it over and over, that's how you become good. So I think we got to more or less just try to practice a little more, study whatever it is that the tools that they're giving us, and then go try it. If it fails, you're not going to know if you don't try it. I got that list. I did a little differently because I used to do this before. Like I said, I used to do a lot of short sales as well here in New York. And I had my admin comb through the list just to check for who had real property. And then we got right off the top like 40 or whatever. We took those 40. I mailed out, but I went in and called. And the first person that I spoke to wanted to sell. And I used the script, spoke to the person, took the listing today actually, and then left. This was at 10 o'clock. And now at 2:30, I have an appointment with an attorney, which I'm actually in my car sitting across from the building here in Manhattan on 57th Street. So it's just a matter of you trying to do these things. You got to apply yourself, and obviously, know your craft. If you're in real estate, do real estate. I'm going to answer to, I guess it was Kelly that said she was a nurse, and she's no longer a nurse, and now she's an investor. If you were a nurse, you were pretty good at what you were doing as a nurse. If you're a realtor, they want to hire someone that's pretty good at what it is they need to solve their problems in their situation. So it's good to put it on, maybe put it on your bio that you were an RN or you're an RN or have a degree or whatever, and then they'll see that and say, well, this person is compassionate, maybe she'll be able to listen a little better than someone that's just an actual agent and probably just want to just take the listing. So that may work for you in your favor in that terms. But just try. You got to really go out and try. You're not going to know. And there's so many fears that we're battling as opposed to trying and do it. We sit back and just ask all these questions because we're so nervous. So, everybody just try what's out of first call.
Well said. I was a real estate coach for a number of years. I find the biggest mistake agents make is they want to know everything before they do anything. And very well said, Ernest. And just the fact that, you're not in a very competitive market or anything in New York City, are you?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Yeah, it's just you, just working them, and it sounds like you've talked to 3 people. Your first deal, you're batting 100%. So that is awesome, and I can see why. Honestly, you got lucky right out of the box, and you're not the first person that we've heard that did that. But I guarantee you, your attitude has a tremendous amount to do with it. You come from a sense of contribution and confidence, and people can perceive that. They react well to it. So that's awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
I appreciate
it.
So
the takeaway here, guys, is massive action equals results. Overthinking usually equals more overthinking and eventually failing. And we see it every day. So I love hearing that from one of our subscribers because hopefully that carries more weight than it does coming from us. I think it does. So thanks so much for sharing, man.
Awesome, Ernest. Thank you so much, buddy. We got 2 more people in the queue. Phone number ending in 9452. You're up.
Hi, this is Jennifer, and I'm in Prescott, Arizona. I just recently relocated to this area, but I've been doing your lead service since October. And it's a really small county, I guess, so I don't get a ton of leads every month. I maybe, on a good month, I might get 50. On, a smaller month, I might get 30. And I've been calling the leads, and I've just not been having a ton of success on finding people that still have property. And I don't know if it's because it's more of like a retirement area, and most of them have just already worked through everything, and I'm getting to them kind of too late in the process. And I wondered whether you had any advice on, a smaller community, I guess, where maybe this was a vacation home or something, and maybe they just sold it, more quickly than they might have otherwise.
So the first thing I would say is figure that out. So the next, as you're having these conversations, try to, I mean, without, being too prying, try to find out when it was actually sold. So was it sold prior to the death? Was it sold 10 years before the death, or was it sold immediately after? Like try to put that on a timeline, and that'll help you figure out where your efforts need to be.
Most of the time, I have asked those questions. Most of the time, they've sold it before they were, finalizing the settlement, to the parties that would have been included in the, in the will. So it's happening kind of mid-process. Does that make sense?
Okay. So typically, the timeline that we see, like on average, somebody will pass away. Usually, about 60 days later, they will file probate. Now, for those of you who are new to this, it's not a rule. It's just the fact. So when we look across the country, we see that most people are filing probate about 2 months after the death. And depending on what state you're in, that process can be almost immediate, or it can take 6 months to a year in some markets. So, the only thing you can do is look. We're getting you the data within 30 days of the filing.
Right.
So no more than 3 months from the time of death. If they're selling before that, it's typically because investors are, they're probably pulling newspaper articles and looking at obits and then skip tracing and doing a whole lot of work to reach out to those people. And that is something that in a few competitive markets we're doing some testing right now to see if that can really be systemized. But if that's where they're beating you, I will say that a few ways that you can get in front of this is networking, building your referral network. So if you are in a small community and every estate planning attorney in the community knows your business and the value you bring to that community, you're going to get referrals. The same thing with probate attorneys, the same thing with nursing home employees. So if the director of admissions or the director of marketing, it's a different title in different facilities. But any of those long-term care facilities, let's just say within a 50-mile radius of you, they should really know that there's a real estate agent in the community that specializes, because a lot of times when homes sell late in life but before a death, a lot of times it was to clear assets so that Medicare would pick up long-term care bills. So those are just a few ideas that can get you, earlier in the process, can get you referrals.
Yep. And now that I'm up here, it's going to be a lot easier for me to do that networking. Before it was a little more challenging because I was just back and forth, between for shorter periods of time. The other question, that's really helpful. I really appreciate that. So I will just take a focus of just getting more involved in the community, and hopefully it'll come around the other direction. And then the other thing that's happening, and I don't know if you have this with other people, but out of the leads that I had last month, I think I had like 52 leads. 12 of them were repeats of ones that had been in the last 3 months.
Interesting. So
now that should not be the case. If you see, I can't think of a legitimate reason for that. And if you see that, let us know. It may just be a little bit of sloppiness on our date.
Just call in, because it happens. It happens every single month. I get duplicates, and the problem is now I've got people that have told me they don't want me to call them back, and so I have to go through the list and look them all up to make sure that they're not a dupe.
Hey Jennifer, we're gonna. This is Tim, and I've got your data in front of me, and I'm going to take a quick look at that, and we'll definitely find out why we're having overlap. That sounds like we've got a researcher who is not doing an appropriate reset to stop at the ones that they collected and for the previous month, because your estimated probates is only supposed to be about 25 a month based on what our data shows, and we've been over-delivering that a bit, and I think that's probably why. I think she's just overlapping. We'll fix that quickly. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, good. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's what I had. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Thanks for participating. One more person in the queue, guys, and then we'll wrap it up. Phone number ending in 8228, you're up.
Good afternoon, guys. This is Mike in Port Charlotte, Florida. I wanted to bring up a point, and then I had a question for you.
Sure.
Point that I'm finding is an average of about a dozen of the probate leads I receive each month are already listed for sale, and I find most of them are listed for sale within 30 days after the person has passed.
So, again, Chad, that's probably a proactive seller, right? Yeah.
It's just the nature of the business. So
yeah.
in Port Charlotte, Florida, I'll bet you I wouldn't make it 2 blocks before I met a realtor if I walked down the street and just asked, right? So we've got millions of licensed real estate agents in the country. Everybody knows a realtor. So a large number of these are going to have a realtor they bought from, they trust as part of the family. So, you know, it's just the reality of our business. Like, no lead type is going to yield 100% results. So what we find is most agents can get a 2% conversion. So if you get 100 leads, 25 are going to list with another agent, 2 are going to sell to investors, 10 will pass it through the family. Like, you lose numbers of those, but what you're really focused on is the 2 out of 100 that you're going to close.
Yep. The other thing is property that's in a revocable trust. Is it necessary for that to pass through probate?
It's not, and that's you know, we actually don't see those. So the best way to see them is to know the estate planning attorney.
Well, here's an interesting scenario. I got on the call late today because I was on the phone with an 80-year-old woman here in Port Charlotte who called me regarding the letter that she received from me, and she was a little concerned about why I sent her a letter about probate filing. She says, no, my property is in a revocable trust. There shouldn't be a probate filing. All I asked the attorney to do was to file a will. Well, it turns out he opened up a probate case, and she's got a big issue with that attorney now, but because I was so helpful to her, even though she had not considered selling her home, she's now reconsidering. Maybe now's the time to downsize once she deals with this attorney.
That's awesome. I'll give the attorney the benefit of the doubt here, and what she may not understand is that even though some of the assets went into the trust, there's a chance, and I would say more probable than not, they left some assets out of the trust, and those assets have to be probated.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the house may be part of the living trust, and it won't have to pass through probate. But if they had a pension fund or a life, you know, or you know, if there was some other assets like a gold coin collection, and that was left out of the trust documents, then maybe the attorney discovered that when he looked at the list of assets and he looked at the trust documents and he said, "Oh crap, something was left out. We have to file probate on this little piece of the pie, but we still have to do it." So that's probably what happened, but it's a good thing it happened because you got the call, and hopefully you'll get that listing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a nice waterfront property here, too, $500,000 property. I'm looking forward to that one. And one other quick question. The probate filings, do you typically find these on the Clerk of the Circuit Court's website, or do you actually have to do the search within the courthouse?
It's in 99% of cases, it's a in-person collection, and it's kind of a 3-step process on paper. So you're literally going in pen and paper because you're not allowed to have electronics.
There you go. Okay. Answers
all
my
I always
questions.
share. By the way, we have one person coming back. I always share when we had this idea 4 years ago, we thought by now all the counties would be online, and just the opposite has happened. There's fewer online today than there were 4 years ago, and even the places where you can get some data online, it's so fragmented and it's so hard to drill down and get it. It's really just easier and more efficient, and you get better data by sending people out to the courthouse. So virtually everywhere that we're doing this, we're using human beings to go collect the data. The good news is that kind of limits the supply of people that have it, and it makes it a pretty special thing if you can get it, because not everybody has it. So yeah, good question. And we have Arthur, you came back for one last closing question, hopefully. Thank you very much, Mike. Was that it?
Yep, that's it.
All right, appreciate it. He's back. Hey, Arthur, welcome back.
Hey, yeah, just a real quick question. I forgot to ask it earlier. It was in regards to the letters, and you had mentioned as long as it's an invitation size. And I just think about the letters that you put together and the language in them. How do you, because I'm sending out my letters right now in 8.5 by 11 and sending them out in 9 by 12 letters, envelopes. How are you able to get all that verbiage down on an invitation size letter?
I'm not sure I understand what you just said. Say that again. You're sending out a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, right? Or not?
I am, and even that is just quite a bit, with just the letterhead and the date and so on. It's just quite a bit to get on a sheet. Now you're using invitation size envelopes, and I'm assuming that those are smaller sizes of paper.
They're not. They're not smaller sizes of paper. It's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper folded in half, and it's actually an A9 sized envelope. It's specifically made for a full-size greeting card letter to go into.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, that's it.
All right, awesome, guys. This is our best participation call ever. We really appreciate you all taking 30 minutes or 45 minutes, 50 minutes of your day to show up today, and we particularly appreciate those that were willing to contribute and share with the group. And I always like to end these calls by challenging everybody. You took the time to be here. We heard some great ideas, some great stories today. Take one thing, one idea, one thing that someone shared today, go out and put it into practice and come back next week, same time, and share it with the group. Make it a great week, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.